Welcome back. I'm Kim She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. Today we are still doing our recording inside of a more relaxed lockdown, but still lockdown due to the coronavirus. And we wanted to take this opportunity to start looking forward, to reflect on what we have done and how life has been in terms of work and our working relationships, and use that to see how we are going to move forward and to have this reflecting time, these reflections that we take now at this point in time to look back on when we are back into what we might consider a more normal working mode, whatever that turns out to be. So today's topic is reflections, and I want to start by my pet hate during this period of time has been people talking about how they are stuck at home. And it's about the words we use. And you know that I have talked about this on many, many occasions to you. But words for me are very important, as is communication generally. And using the word stuck at home was, as I said, a pet bugbear, because I would rather think that we have been safe at home during this period of time. So that's my first item that I want to throw into the ring, is that for me, the reflection has been about how we have communicated with one another, how in a broader sense the leaders of the world generally have communicated with people, what that has meant, how that has been used and utilised for our own mental health during this time, and the approach that we've taken to work or to whatever else we're doing, to school or all of the other things that make up part of our day. So I am, and I have not ever been stuck at home. I have been safe at home, and I'm happy with that.
I agree. I haven't been stuck at home. I have been communicating and working from home as well as keeping safe. And by me keeping safe, hopefully, as we've been told, keeping others safe as well, which is good. Now, we're all affected by the same thing, the COVID-19, and that's worldwide. However, we naturally, being individuals, we react differently. There might be similarities statistically, but basically our feelings might differ because individual circumstances are different. For example, if you in a unit and it's a one bedroom and there is 2 or 3 of you, that's a bit more confined space and it has different challenges, right? So circumstances are different. If you lost your job, if you've been stood down because of the virus, then there is other impact. So firstly, it's respecting that in this situation and in life in general, we could be facing similar or the same issue, but we might react different each time because of different circumstances. In a workplace, we might have a restructure. There'll be 20 people affected, and each one of them will react differently. One might say, great, because I'll be made redundant and I was thinking of retiring anyway. Another one might say, gee, I'm nearing retirement, I'll never get another job. Another might say, I just started here, etc., etc. So it's all different. What we're doing here, though, is the reflection on, firstly, as a person, as a human being, how did I react to these changes or to these circumstances that was come to us without notice with the COVID? And so what we're doing here is, how did I go? And in reflection, how happy I am with the way I went. Am I happy? What would I do differently? How would I do things differently? And so it's more about behaviorally rather than just practical. Practical, did I, I'm in a house, have I got enough bright lights or the right chair or whatever? I'm not talking about that just now. I'm talking about how did I behave? And then take that another step and then think about the people that you interact with, family, friends, remote as it might be. How did they behave and how did we interact? You might think about that with your team, with the people that work for you, with who you work for. What you might find will really surprise you, nicely surprise you. A bit later I will talk about what my reflection has found. So I think that's what we're encouraging everyone to reflect, because it's a very, very powerful way of learning about ourselves and others, and then we'll take that to ourselves in the future.
I have 4 questions that I want you to use as you see fit to do this reflection. They're not for sharing with anybody other than yourself. So I do encourage you to be really brutally honest about the 4 questions when you answer them. So the first one is, what did I learn about me? And that can be things like, well, I learnt that I don't like being on my own as much as I thought I wanted that, or that I do like being on my own and I had never considered it before. So what did I learn about me? What did I learn about others? And this can be others in your work team, others in your family, others in the neighbourhood, whatever else it is. What did I learn about others? What did I learn about me? What did I learn about others? And the next 2 questions are the ones where you really do need to be honest about this if this is going to work as a reflective exercise. What surprised me? Again, that can be about you personally, or it can be just a general thing. What surprised you out of this whole experience? What disappointed you? If you just take some time to reflect on those 4 questions, that is a basic reflection on what this time has meant to you in a work sense, if you want to limit it to a work sense, in a personal sense, which I think is far more valuable because it will tell you things that might trigger all sorts of other experiences and a way forward for you. And this exercise is for you to start thinking about moving forward, not about how good or bad it's been for you in this period of time. It's just take a moment, think about these topics and use them to move forward.
Very good. Now, on reflection, what I heard from others that was extremely pleasing. One is people are saying things like, well, I was pleasantly surprised that I'm actually more productive working in this environment. That's one. Another one said, I wasn't really one of those people. I was one of those people that never thought highly of working from home. I always thought it as it's more about satisfying private needs than about the work itself. And now happily say, very wrong, that it's not like that at all. Working from home has other challenges, but it also got rewards, and productivity is improved, multitasking is expanding, and basically the travel time is turned into a blessing because you can do things in that time. The other thing is, the concern was about communication with other people, like seeing them and bumping into them. And apparently the majority seem to think communication has improved. Communication has improved because people are making a concerted effort to discuss, because they can't bump into them and then hear updates in the corridors. So that to me is another positive thing, in that how people turn the situation that could have been negative, but it's not. It ended up being really good. It made them appreciate their home and their space and their setup. It made them appreciate the fact that other people also working partners in the same household and how they need to manage that. And if you add the other layer on, some of them having the children at home, which they don't normally have, again, and how well they did despite all of that. That doesn't mean that on reflection people didn't talk about cabin fever. And I'm one of those. I prefer to go out. I've never felt isolated or anything like that. But I like the fact of going out. And of course, you can walk out for exercise. We know that, whatever. But in a sense of people, outdoors, I miss that. But to me, on balance, everything worked out much better than I thought. Basically, that's a very, very brief reflection on what I've seen and what I heard.
If we're talking about using that going into the future, how are you going to use that?
How we're going to use that is, what did we do in relation to firstly, the fact that you don't have to be in the office to work. So can we use that? We probably have to anyway, given the circumstances. We probably have to have a gradual return and only skeleton of staff or team A, team B. So that would help me decide that and how to build those teams. That would help me participate as a member of the team to say what I liked when we're not here is that we talk to each other on this and this by that, and it didn't take long, and etc. So I think I would use all those things that I thought were pluses, and I would be encouraging people to say, put your hand up if we're going to work staggered shifts, for example. Who is better off depends on what their private life is about and what partner they have. They might be with people who are essential workers and frontline. The communication on involving every single person in how they like to see their roster going forward, if you like, about the value of the method of communication, about the fact that I can work from home without having to feel guilty or leaving early. I might say, look, I'm happy to come in the office, and now a better balance. So that's how it's going to help me to say, I actually got to know A, B, C, and D, person A, B, and D from different departments a lot better on the phone. We used the time wiser. We actually got to the bottom of it and we got the stuff done.
Just been jotting down my answers to those questions.
Yes.
For the reflection time. And so I'll share those with you. What did I learn about me? I learned that a quite surprising thing for me, because had you asked me before this exercise whether I really need to see people or whether I'm happier working on my own, I would unquestionably have said, I'm quite happy working my own. I don't need to see people. I've got things to do. I'm happy doing the things where I don't have to interact necessarily with people face to face. What I learned about me is that there are some people, and this excludes family, so we're not talking about family, but people I work with, there are some that I do physically need to see, not face to face, not in person, but even in terms of a Zoom meeting or a Skype meeting, I really needed to see them live. I needed to see them moving around, not just the profile picture.
Yeah.
That surprised me. It was something that I wouldn't have expected out of this exercise. There are others that I was quite happy just talking to without any other visual interaction, but there were some where I really felt the need to have that visual interaction as well. What did I learn about others? That they fall into two very distinct categories, and that became obvious as more time went on, is that there are those who think about others who are caring and sharing, and there are those who just revert to the internal, who become very selfish, very self-absorbed, and really don't care about anyone else. And I understood that at a certain level prior to this exercise, but I didn't feel it come into the workplace as much as I have during this period of time. What surprised me about me was that I think my working situation didn't really change a whole lot, but mentally, because everyone else's had changed, it seemed to give me a freedom to be far more focused than I allowed myself to be previously. So I would say that in the last 6 weeks, I have got significantly more done because I have been much more focused than I would have had we been under the previous circumstances of open environments. And that surprised me, that I could actually be more focused, and it was purely my perception of what was happening. It wasn't that there was any real change in the interactions that I have or the work that I do, but I will say, much more focused and have accomplished much more of the long-term projects than I had previously given myself time to do. What disappointed me during this period of time is the number of people who look for blame, who won't take individual responsibility for their own situation, for their work situation, for what they're doing. Their first and immediate reaction in any conversation is to throw the blame thrower, to look for blame, to look for it being someone else's responsibility. And to me, this period of time has given us all the opportunity to be responsible, to take on responsibility for ourselves, and to understand that in a broader sense. And I have been disappointed that hasn't been more obvious.
That's good.
That probably covers enough of what we wanted to talk to you about. We encourage you to take that time to reflect on what you have learned from this period of lockdown and isolation and different working conditions, and use those reflections and the learning out of that to look forward, because we're all about looking forward. Things will change, things will be different. We might never be in a situation where there isn't some health threat that's happening around the world. So we need to start thinking about how we're going to work and how we're going to interact with one another. But for now, I'm Kim Bailey, she's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec.